a corporation. Some people may know that in the U.S. environment that the SEC is not real friendly towards blockchain projects and whatnot. Hence, why we're working out of Dubai these days. So we have transitioned over to the UAE.
If you hold QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, or XLM, you might not realize it yet, but you're not just holding coins. You're holding the foundation of the next financial system. This isn't hype. This isn't another bull run headline. What's happening right now is the quiet assembly of a new global infrastructure, one designed to replace the tangled, inefficient system that has governed money, trade, and trust for nearly a century. These 5 projects aren't competing. They're converging. Each one plays a critical role in what the IMF and World Bank have started calling the digital economy transition, the shift toward tokenized money, programmable finance, and fully interoperable payment rails. Think of it this way: if Bitcoin was the spark, these are the circuit boards being wired into the global engine. Let's start with the obvious connection: ISO 20022. Every serious institution, from the BIS to the Federal Reserve to SWIFT, is migrating to this international messaging standard. Why? Because ISO 20022 allows data-rich, programmable transactions that legacy systems simply can't handle. And right now, the assets at the center of this shift, XRP, XLM, XDC, QNT, and HBAR, are either ISO 20022 compliant or directly integrated with its structure. That's not an accident. That's design. For years, retail investors treated these coins like speculative assets, trading charts, chasing short-term pumps. But behind the scenes, governments, banks, and Fortune 500 companies were testing them for something much bigger: global interoperability. They weren't looking for another crypto. They were looking for infrastructure. XRP, through RippleNet and its on-demand liquidity (ODL) system, has been quietly onboarding central banks, remittance providers, and payment corridors across continents. Stellar, XLM, has been bridging the gap between blockchain and the unbanked, with partnerships like MoneyGram Access, allowing real-world fiat-to-crypto movement in over 200 countries. XDC Network has been integrating with trade finance protocols, helping digitize the trillion-dollar world of supply chain settlements. QNT, with its Overledger technology, has become the silent interoperability layer, the glue that connects private and public blockchains, banks, and even legacy databases into one connected digital ecosystem. And HBAR HBAR, backed by its governing council, which includes names like Google, IBM, Standard Bank, and the London School of Economics, is bringing enterprise-grade tokenization to the table. Tokenized assets, ESG credits, digital IDs, and real-time settlement systems. These aren't random coincidences. These are strategic puzzle pieces. And if you hold any of them, you're holding a share in that puzzle. Now here's where things get interesting, because these coins weren't designed to fight the old system. They were built to modernize it. The traditional banking infrastructure, SWIFT, ACH, SEPA, was built decades ago, long before the digital economy existed. It was never meant to move data, identity, and value simultaneously. But the next generation of networks, the one these coins are enabling, can move all 3 in a single transaction: value, verification, and metadata. That's the backbone of programmable money, tokenized assets, and the Internet of Value that Ripple, Stellar, and HBAR have been talking about for years. Look closer, and you'll see that all 5 networks share one mission: interoperability. They aren't fighting over users, they're building bridges between systems. XRP connects banks and liquidity providers. XLM connects people and payment apps. XDC connects supply chains and trade platforms. QNT connects blockchains and enterprises. HBAR connects governments and institutions. Together, they form the nervous system of the new monetary order, decentralized in structure, but globally coordinated in function. It's no longer about crypto versus banks. It's about integration, where the transparency of blockchain meets the stability of traditional finance. Now, think about what happens when that integration reaches full scale. When central banks issue CBDCs on tokenized rails, they'll need liquidity bridges, that's XRP and XLM. When corporations tokenize assets, securities, or real estate, they'll need governance and compliance infrastructure, That's HBAR. When banks need to connect their private blockchains to public networks securely, they'll use QNT's Overledger. And when global trade digitizes, invoices, bills of lading, cross-border settlements, they'll use XDC. What you're seeing isn't random adoption. It's a quiet synchronization. Every few months, a new connection is made. A pilot project here, a regulatory approval there, all moving toward a shared endpoint, the full tokenization of the world's financial system. And here's the part retail investors often miss: you're early. The narratives haven't caught up yet. Most people still see these projects in isolation. They see XRP as a payments coin, XLM as a remittance token, HBAR as an enterprise ledger, QNT as an interoperability play, and XDC as a trade coin. But they don't see the system-level connection. They don't realize these are the same rails being discussed by the IMF, the World Bank, and the BIS in their digital finance reports. In those reports, you'll find terms like interoperable CBDCs, tokenized settlements, and programmable liquidity. These are not buzzwords, they're blueprints, and the technology behind them already exists in the coins you're holding. So when you hear that QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, and XLM are sleeping giants, it's not a meme. It's a recognition of timing. These aren't speculative plays anymore. They're infrastructure-level assets, tied to the same global transition that's reshaping how money moves, how assets are owned, and how trust is established in a digital world. You're not just holding coins. You're holding pieces of a global operating system that's about to come online. Unlike most crypto tokens chasing hype, QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, and XLM are building what the financial elite call the new digital infrastructure. It's not about speculation. It's about integration. Each of these projects connects a different part of the financial puzzle. Quant QNT is the bridge, the interoperability layer. It's building the Internet of blockchains, where any system, private or public, can communicate seamlessly through its Overledger technology. Governments, banks, and enterprises can use Quant to connect legacy systems to blockchain networks without rewriting their entire infrastructure. XRP Ripple is the engine of instant global settlement. Its ledger can move money between any two currencies in seconds, and it's already being tested in corridors from the Middle East to Southeast Asia. With Ripple's ongoing partnerships with financial institutions and even central banks, XRP is quietly becoming the liquidity layer for the world's cross-border payments. XDC XINFIN focuses on trade finance, the multi-trillion-dollar system that powers international commerce. By tokenizing trade documents and providing near-instant settlements, XDC aims to bring efficiency to an industry still running on paper and delayed SWIFT messages. HBAR, Hedera Hashgraph, is the corporate layer, the technology that Fortune 500 companies trust. It's not just a blockchain. It's a hashgraph, faster, fairer, and designed for enterprise-grade scalability. With a governing council that includes Google, IBM, Standard Bank, and more, HBAR is becoming the digital trust layer for identity, carbon credits, and enterprise applications. XLM Stellar is the people's layer. Built for financial inclusion, Stellar connects remittance networks, digital wallets, and fintechs to make money move across borders as easily as an email. Its partnerships with MoneyGram and Circle USDC have brought real-world utility that touches millions of users. Together, these projects form a complete ecosystem, one that could underpin the next generation of the global financial system. Now, look at what's happening behind the scenes. The G20, the IMF, and the World Bank have all been discussing interoperable CBDCs, digital currencies that must be able to interact seamlessly across borders and platforms. But here's the truth. Traditional banking infrastructure can't do that. Only these blockchain-based networks, the same ones you're holding, are built to solve it. That's why we've seen Quant working with Oracle and SIA, Europe's banking network. Ripple being tested by central banks for cross-border settlement, HBAR used by government agencies for digital identity and energy tracking, Stellar teaming up with MoneyGram to connect fiat and crypto liquidity, and XDC forming part of the TradeFinex network recognized by the World Trade Organization. This isn't random. This is coordinated. The future financial system isn't being built from scratch. It's being upgraded piece by piece through these interoperable networks. And here's the catch most people miss. This evolution doesn't require the public's approval. It's already happening inside the infrastructure layers, inside APIs, private ledgers, and pilot programs. When the switch flips, most will wake up to find that these 5 assets form the rails of global finance 2.0. Holding these coins isn't about chasing pumps. It's about owning a piece of the foundation before the world realizes what's being built. If the 2010s were about crypto disrupting the system, the 2020s are about crypto integrating with the system. And in that integration, value will flow to the networks that actually connect the pipes, not the ones that sit on the sidelines. That's why those who hold QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, and XLM are not just early adopters. They're early participants in the new digital order being woven quietly behind the headlines. Because while the world watches ETFs and price charts, something much bigger is unfolding. The merger of traditional finance, digital assets, and distributed networks into one unified global engine. And when that switch happens, the holders of these coins won't just see price action. They'll see history repeat itself, but this time, they'll be on the right side of it. Every major transformation in human history has started quietly. Electricity didn't take over the world overnight. The internet didn't suddenly replace newspapers. Each began as a technical experiment, invisible to most, before becoming the foundation of civilization. The same thing is happening right now with digital finance. And if you're holding QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, or XLM, you're sitting inside the machinery that's already being wired into this transformation. Let's be clear, the world's most powerful institutions, from the World Bank and IMF to the BIS, SWIFT, and regional central banks, have one shared mission: to rebuild the global monetary system to be digital first, interoperable, and real-time. But they can't do it alone. Their old infrastructure was built for the 1970s: batch settlements, paper-based processes, and siloed databases. They need new technology rails that can handle tokenized assets, CBDCs, and digital identity at scale. This is where the 5 giants step in. XRP, the backbone of cross-border settlement. Ripple's XRP ledger has quietly become the prototype for CBDC interoperability. Multiple countries, including Bhutan, Palau, and the UK, have tested or discussed Ripple's CBDC solutions. RippleNet, its global payment network, is already integrated with over 300 financial institutions, providing instant settlement with XRP as the bridge asset. When the IMF talks about a multi-CBDC bridge, or when the Bank for International Settlements releases reports on cross-border token settlement, they're describing the exact function XRP has been performing for nearly a decade. In 2024, Ripple was officially recognized in Hong Kong's HKD pilot program, a major signal that governments are comfortable working with the same infrastructure that private institutions are already using. Ripple's tech doesn't just make payments faster. It eliminates nostro vostro accounts, freeing up billions in trapped liquidity. That's why when central banks look for real-time solutions that work within compliance, XRP stands out. It's built for regulated finance, not against it. XLM, the bridge between crypto and the people. While XRP connects banks and institutions, Stellar, XLM, connects people and real-world money. Through its partnership with MoneyGram, Stellar has created one of the world's largest fiat-to-crypto networks. This isn't theory, it's live in over 180 countries, allowing users to convert cash to USDC and back through MoneyGram locations. This means Stellar isn't competing with the system, it's connecting to it. And now, with the UNHCR, United Nations Refugee Agency, using Stellar-based stablecoin payouts for humanitarian aid, we're witnessing one of the biggest humanitarian applications of blockchain in history. The idea is simple: send money directly to people in crisis. No banks, no borders, no intermediaries. The Stellar blockchain verifies, transfers, and settles value instantly, transparently, and at almost zero cost. Add to that Circle's USDC, which runs natively on Stellar, and you've got a stable foundation for cross-border remittances that regulators actually support. While Bitcoin fights for acceptance, Stellar quietly earns it through usability and compliance. And now, with MoneyGram's acquisition by Madison Dearborn Partners, Stellar's relationship is likely to deepen. The long-term vision: a global on/off-ramp system where fiat and crypto move seamlessly, with Stellar as the protocol powering it all. HBAR, the corporate engine of the future. If XRP and XLM are the financial rails, HBAR is the infrastructure layer trusted by corporations and governments. Hedera Hashgraph's unique gossip about gossip consensus is not just another blockchain gimmick. It's designed for enterprise-scale speed and fairness. But what truly separates Hedera is its governing council, a consortium of over 40 multinational corporations and organizations including Google, IBM, Boeing, Standard Bank, Dell, and the London School of Economics. Each has a real vote on the network's decisions, ensuring stability and credibility unmatched by decentralized competitors. This structure is precisely what global regulators and enterprises want: transparency with accountability. That's why Hedera has been chosen for projects in digital identity, the ATMA initiative, carbon tracking with Dovu and The Guardian, and tokenized financial instruments via Arcax. In 2025, we're now seeing central banks and payment networks exploring Hedera's proof-of-action infrastructure for digital asset compliance. HBAR isn't trying to replace the system. It's building the back end of the system that the world will use next. QNT, the invisible glue holding it all together. Now, enter Quant QNT, the least talked about yet most crucial piece. Its Overledger technology isn't a blockchain. It's the interoperability layer that connects blockchains, banks, and even central bank systems like SWIFT or FedNow. Quant's partnerships read like a who's who of global finance: Oracle, SIA, LAC Chain, and the Digital Pound Foundation. Overledger enables any application to run on multiple blockchains simultaneously, an essential capability for institutions deploying tokenized assets and CBDCs. This is what the IMF, World Bank, and BIS call interoperable infrastructure. They're not looking for one chain to rule them all. They're looking for a universal connector, and Quant is the leading contender. As tokenized securities and CBDCs begin to proliferate, Quant's Overledger could become the plumbing of the financial internet, silently connecting XRP-based settlement, HBAR-powered enterprise networks, and XDC-based trade systems. XDC, the bridge between blockchain and trade finance. Trade finance is one of the world's largest yet most outdated sectors. Over $5 trillion in annual transactions still processed through paper and manual approval chains. The XINFIN XDC network is rewriting that with its TradeFinix platform, which the World Trade Organization and International Chamber of Commerce have both recognized for its digitization potential. By tokenizing invoices, bills of lading, and letters of credit, XDC is creating instant liquidity for exporters and importers. Imagine a Nigerian exporter, a German importer, and a Singaporean bank, all settling through a single digital framework using XDC as collateral. This is not a dream. It's already happening in pilot programs involving real-world institutions. And as global trade tokenization expands, projected to reach $16 trillion by 2030, XDC's role will only become more vital. The unseen alignment. Now zoom out and connect the dots. XRP, cross-border payments for banks. XLM, retail remittance and humanitarian payments. HBAR, enterprise and digital identity. XDC, trade finance and tokenized assets. QNT, interoperability connecting all the above. Each coin plays a role in the same global system redesign. And it's not a coincidence that these projects appear repeatedly in BIS, IMF, and WEF working papers about the future of digital money. They're already laying the foundation for what the World Bank calls Digital Public Infrastructure, DPI, the invisible network of digital identity, payments, and data exchange that nations will soon rely on. When people talk about the next bull run, they imagine charts going vertical. But the real bull run isn't about hype. It's about integration, about the moment the old world financial system quietly plugs into these networks. And when that happens, the holders of these coins won't just see wealth. They'll witness the culmination of a multi-decade transition that began as rebellion but matured into global coordination. For years, the crypto industry was trapped in uncertainty. Governments hesitated, regulators clashed, and institutions stayed on the sidelines. But something changed between 2023 and 2025. The world stopped asking if blockchain could fit into the system and started asking how fast it could be integrated.
Legal clarity is no longer a fantasy. It's happening, and it's happening globally. And it's the shift in regulation and policy that's unlocking the path for XRP, XOM, HBAR, QNT, and XDC to transition from speculation to infrastructure. The ripple effect, from courtroom to boardroom. Let's start with the turning point, Ripple's legal victory in 2023. When the U.S. courts ruled that XRP was not a security when sold on exchanges, it did more than vindicate Ripple. It set a global precedent. For the first time, regulators had to confront the difference between a token's use and its sale, between utility and investment. This distinction sent shockwaves across the crypto world. Within months, European and Asian regulators began updating their own frameworks to match. In the EU, the MiCA Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation Bill was finalized, providing a clear path for tokens used in payments and settlements. The exact domains XRP and XLM dominate. Meanwhile, Singapore, the UAE, and Hong Kong began actively licensing digital asset firms, including Ripple and Stellar-affiliated partners, under payment and remittance frameworks. What does this mean? It means the same technology once dismissed as shadow finance is now becoming official financial infrastructure. Ripple didn't just win a lawsuit. It unlocked institutional doors. Within 18 months of that verdict, Ripple announced partnerships with HSBC, the National Bank of Georgia, and several APAC payment corridors. These weren't speculative collaborations. They were proof that regulated clarity equals adoption. Stellar's global compliance advantage. Stellar, meanwhile, played the long game. While other crypto projects fought regulators, Stellar worked with them. In 2024, MoneyGram's Stellar-based remittance network received approval from U.S. regulators to operate as a digital asset payment rail. This gave Stellar something invaluable, a compliance passport. Suddenly, governments and banks could trust that Stellar-based transfers were legal, transparent, and traceable. This led to pilot programs with the World Bank and IMF-backed initiatives in Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. These programs aren't about retail hype. They're about financial inclusion, connecting unbanked populations to a new form of money that moves globally but obeys local law. And that's the secret. Stellar built its reputation on trust and access, not speculation. That's why it's now being invited to participate in central bank interoperability pilots, bridging stablecoins and CBDCs, HBAR and institutional-grade regulation. Hedera's story is different, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. From the start, Hedera positioned itself as regulator-friendly. Its governing council of 40-plus global corporations acts as both validators and compliance gatekeepers, ensuring every network change aligns with international standards like ISO 20022. That's why HBAR has become the go-to choice for enterprise-grade blockchain solutions tied to sustainability, tokenization, and identity. Take the Guardian framework, built on Hedera. It's being used by governments and NGOs to tokenize carbon credits in compliance with UN sustainability standards. That's a massive step, because it means regulators don't need to fear wild crypto markets. They can now use tokenization under controlled, transparent systems. In 2025, the Bank of England's Digital Pound Project and the European Central Bank's Digital Euro team referenced Hedera's governance model as a compliance-compatible architecture for permissioned asset networks. That phrase, compliance-compatible, is the difference between a project being speculative and a project becoming systemic. Quant and the rise of interoperability standards. Then there's Quant, QNT. While most crypto networks try to attract attention, Quant operates in stealth mode, working behind closed doors with central banks, ISO committees, and payment networks to define the future rules of tokenized interoperability. Quant's Overledger technology is being used to connect CBDC testnets across Europe, the UK, and Latin America. It doesn't compete with XRP, XLM, or HBAR, it connects them. In mid-2025, reports surfaced that Overledger had successfully facilitated communication between the UK's Digital Pound pilot and the European Central Bank's Digital Euro Sandbox. This was one of the world's first cross-border CBDC interoperability trials, exactly what the IMF has been calling for in its digital currency handbook. Quant is effectively laying the plumbing for global tokenization, ensuring that any digital asset on any chain, can move freely across jurisdictions under regulated oversight. It's not sexy, it's not mean-worthy, but it's infrastructure-level adoption, the global regulatory convergence. In short, the rules are finally being written, and they all point toward integration, not prohibition. The World Bank's 2025 Spring Summit confirmed this when it introduced its Digital Public Infrastructure Framework, emphasizing that financial inclusion and interoperability are now official development goals. The IMF and BIS followed up by highlighting blockchain-based payment corridors and tokenized treasury systems as the next global frontier. These aren't crypto adoptions in the retail sense. They're policy-level integrations, the kind that permanently link public and private networks. And as these frameworks mature, projects that were once fringe, XRP for payments, Stellar for remittances, Hedera for data, Quant for interoperability, and XDC for trade, will no longer be viewed as crypto projects. They'll be recognized as the next layer of global financial infrastructure. So here's the truth: if you hold QNT, XRP, XDC, HBAR, or XLM, you're not just holding coins. You're holding infrastructure. You're holding the rails that will carry digital money, real-world assets, tokenized treasuries, and CBDCs across borders. The markets call them altcoins, but institutions call them connectors. Think about it, every major shift in financial history came quietly before it went loud. The internet looked like a toy before it ate the world. Bitcoin looked like a rebellion before it became an asset class. And now these 5 coins, the interoperable, regulated, and utility-driven layer, are quietly aligning beneath the radar of most investors. 2026 isn't about hype cycles. It's about convergence. Ripple's partnerships, Stellar's remittance networks, Hedera's tokenization platforms, Quant's interoperability protocols, and XDC's trade finance bridges. They all form a digital nervous system that governments and banks are starting to plug into. So when the world wakes up and realizes these networks were never competing, they were cooperating, that's when everything changes. If you're still here, still holding, and still learning, you're early. You're ahead of the crowd. If this breakdown opened your eyes, comment, and share this video with someone who needs to see the bigger picture. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because when these coins go from speculation to integration, you'll remember this moment. The world's financial future isn't being built tomorrow. It's being built now, and you're already part of it.